Very simple.
Sorry
Thank
about
you.
that, man.
Thank you.
We got a good roster here.
Here, I'll take you in
There
there
you
and put. I'll take you in there and point you.
Bye, Charlie.
Let me turn this back around.
All right, here we go. Eric hitting a pair of 7s on a jack high flop. Chris with the pocket 10s, though, is in the lead. 700K in the middle. And you can see Eric betting out 250,000. Chris with a decision here. And it looks like Chris goes all in with his pocket 10s. Great play, choosing a great spot. Eric under the gun, not likely to have a lot of jacks in his range, but he could have things like ace jack, queen jack.
Can you pause for a second?
Can you pause just real quick?
And Chris's all-in aggression is going to take that pot down. Eric saying, you know what, I'm just going to wait for a better spot here. A pair of 7s, not going to be too good. All right, goes bet raise on the flop. And Chris adds to his stack, actually up a fair amount so far in these 5 hands that we've seen on this final table. And here's a look at the big winner. And actually, Chris, 670K after taking down that pot, due up 90,000. Eric, unfortunately, letting 340,000 chips slip out of his stack since we started this final table. And due with the ace-7, Art with the K3 suited. Dude's going to make the call. Art, very short stacked, looking for a better spot. Now Roy with the 8-6 off is going to let that one go as well. Chris with the 10-4 offsuit gets out of there. Not really much in the way of playable hands, except Daryl wakes up with the ace-queen in the small blind. Let's see if he decides to put in a raise or just sneak in with a discount. He does have Eric left to act behind him, who is in the big blind. The 5 deuce, though, not likely to be played here. And Daryl shoves all in. Dude, making that side. It seems like he doesn't want to fold this weak ace. But he may have to let it go. Dude is the big stack right now. This $600,000 bet represents a little less than a third of Dude's stack right here.
Check.
Thinking it over, sighing. He does lay the cards down. Daryl scoops in a pot a little more than the blinds. And that should chip him up now at 720,000. He will get the button on the next hand. Hey, we got Megan Menendez in the chat. Great play in a great place and a great commentator. Hey, thank you very much. I like the order of that. We do have some great players. We do have a fantastic set here. A couple of new things coming in the near future to our live stream, so make sure to check us out. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe to us on whichever medium you are watching on. YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook are what we're currently streaming on. So go ahead and give us that subscribe button, hit that like button for more poker action from KoJack's. This one, not exactly poker action only from KoJack's. We've got CCC in the house as well. Again, Art, Johnny in seats 9 and 10 are from CCC.
For some reason, threw an ace.
Paul from KoJack's has the King Jack, the old KoJack right there in the hijack.
When he pulled it over, he got his.
And it looks like Eric in the small blind 7-5 is going to make, I consider this a loose call.
I've got it fixed now.
But he is just limping in here, just completes. Dude with the 10-8 checks, and Johnny with the pocket 6s is ahead right now. And the flop comes 10-3-4, 2 spades. Paul with a backdoor king high flush draw, and Dude with the backdoor 8 high flush draw. Unfortunately, Johnny's 7s very far, or sorry, 6s very far behind. Eric actually has a gutter ball here. Paul's going to lead out for 125,000. Now that Johnny has folded, looks like Paul has the best hand, though Dew has the most equity. Oh, Dew with a pair of 10s has the best hand. A deuce on the turn, a deuce of diamonds is not going to change much. Deuce still with the best hand. Equity does improve with only one card to come. There's the jack, pairing Paul's jack. That is now the best hand. You can see Paul with a check mark here. He is going to go ahead and bet it. Get a little value from anyone left behind. Pot now 740,000. Dude was best on the flop with his pair of tens. You can see him struggling to fold. That looks like he's gathering some chips here.
You only muted one mic. They can still hear us.
Oh, whoops. And he does fold, or he makes the call rather. He makes the call. Paul chipping up by about $500,000 right there. Megan Menendez unsubscribing and resubscribing. I hope that helps with our subscriber count. That's a good strategy, everybody. Just click that subscribe button as many times as you feel like. As long as it lands on subbed, we're good to go. This time Roy, the +1 with the King 3 off suit. Not likely to play that one. Chris, 10-6 suited. He's a little tighter than that, going to let that one go. Basil with the Queen Jack offsuit does decide to let it go. And Eric now looks down at the Ace Queen. The Ace Quisha in last position. 60,000 to call. Not likely to call with such a strong holding, especially with such good position. It does look like he's going to raise it up. 300,000 to go. Deuce, King, Deuce offsuit. Art's King 5 offsuit. Not likely to call here. Art very short stacked now that the big blind has come through, but it is possible that he will elect to go ahead and shove with this hand. King High, not the worst spot to be in when you are so short stacked. And he is dominated by Eric's Ace Queen. And the board no help. In fact, Eric getting pretty close to making a straight there. In Yahtzee, he does make a small straight. Not quite good enough for poker, but the Ace High will take it down. Art out of there. Our first casualty of the final table. We are down to 9 players, and he's going to go ahead and cash out. We hit the money at, I believe, 12 players. So now we are going to see some chip ups here, laddering up as far as the prize goes. Moving on to hand number 9. Again, tournament poker a little slower than the cash games that we host on Thursday, but just watch out. Once these players get into some spots, they are really going to get into some spots. 60,000 is the big blind, so Basil very short now. He's going to elect for a better spot as well. Daryl, 720,000. Just over 10 big blinds, I believe, about 12 by my count. Eric with a fairly healthy stack looks down at Ace 8. He's going to raise it up to 250,000, $250,000 chips. Deuce 7-3 offsuit, not likely to survive a raise like that. Johnny does let it go as well. And Eric chipping up once again, picking up another $60,000 chips. Got Lane Hill. Let's go, Paul. We got Team Paul in the chat. Let us know who your favorite player is. Now, we've got a good roster so far. Johnny, the only surviving member of the CCC, Celebrity Card Club community right now, at least as far as this tournament goes. But he is doing fairly well. He's got just under 500,000 chips in his stack. Slightly short stacked, but a double up will help him out significantly. He's in the small blind right now, so a little bit of a discount if he does decide to get to the flop. can you do me a huge favor?
Yeah.
Love that. Will you take a picture of the prize pool, the ladder for me?
It's in there.
Yeah.
Where?
The payouts are, if you look over on the very right hand side.
Did you just update it?
Oh, I see it. Love it.
That's what I was just doing.
Thank you. And here we go. Here's a look at the next hand. We're on hand number 10. Chris with the 7-6 offsuit under the gun. Playing fairly snug so far on this final table and continues to do so. We'll let that go. Usually want to play your premium hands under the gun. Basil in the +1 position. Short stacked with the Queen 3 offsuit. Not going to cut it. Paul's pocket nines may get ready. We've got Renee cheering for Murray in the chat. Chris Murray at seat number 2, doing pretty well. Got quite a healthy stack there. And looks like Paul trying to add on. Unfortunately, it is a tournament. You do not get to buy chips at the table, unlike a cash game. And Daryl with the 7 deuce, 150,000 to call. Nah, he lets that one go. Dew looks down at King 8. We'll let that one go as well. Folding around, Roy in the big blind with the ace jack. Looks like he's going to make the call. Eyeing up his opponent's stack there, Paul. Wondering how much can I get out of this if I do win. And it does look like Roy's going to call with ace jack off suit. Out of position. Going to the flop. 240,000 in the middle. And the flop comes ace jack high with a 10 in tow. Paul does have a gut shot, 56% equity. But Roy flops top 2 pair. And there's a queen.
Did you have Dew put his cards on his maker? Thank you.
Roy's going to lead out into Paul. Paul says, my nines are probably not too good here. And he does get out of there. Even though that queen did improve Paul's hand to an up and down straight draw, Roy's top 2 pair is going to be good enough to take down that pot. We've got Joe shooting some shots here in the chat, saying, how does Murray make a final table? Must be an easy field, LOL. Murray's a pretty good player. Actually, this field was quite large. We had a lot of entrants yesterday. I want to say we were up to 6 tables running at once. Well over 50 individual entrants. Over 100 rebuys total. Quite the large field. We've seen a lot of strong players come and go, and we are here at the final table with a pretty good field as well. Renee saying table full of great players, 2 exclamation points. I agree right there. And we've got Basil, you can see in seat number 3, wearing blue today. Kind of matching Paul sitting right next to him. Love that. And we got Big Taco with the pocket 4s. Holding some money, putting that in his pocket as well. Signature cup full of ice sitting in the cup holder. Taco likes to have a good time while he's playing. And he's going to look down at the pocket 4s. Let's see what he decides to do here in the +2 position. Gathering up some raisin chips, it looks like. Is that 150?
How much was Daryl's bet?
And Daryl, next to act with the 8-3 suited, does fold. Taco actually raising up to 200,000. Eric gets the ace queen, so does Dew. We got some ace queen on ace queen violence going on. Eric makes the call. Wow, Johnny with the queens, though Dew is still yet to act. Looks like he's reaching for some calling chips. Nope. Wait a second. Looks like he's going to put a squeeze on these other 2 players here. And he won't get the bad news. Ooh. Good size bet right there. It looks like Johnny snap shoves all in with his pocket queens. All 4 queens accounted for. Johnny not going to hit a set on this flop. And 2 of the aces already accounted for Eric and Du, were they to call. Big Taco's 4s, I believe, are live right now. Roy getting out of there with the 10-7. Action back on Eric. Looks like he's got a decision to make. 600,000 is the bet that Du made. And it looks like Taco gets away from his pocket 4s. Can't blame him with this action here pre-flop. Raise, call, 3-bet, shove all in. And we are going to have action on the side. Johnny calling for slightly less than Du's 600,000. About a quarter less than Du's 600,000 chip raise. And 2 ace queens heading to the flop versus Johnny's queens. And that flop comes 10 Jack 5. The backdoor straight possibilities for both Eric and Du. Johnny's queen's still best. Eric and Du looking for an ace to snag that main pot from Johnny. And Du putting on the pressure. I like to see this. Continuing the aggression. Betting into Eric. Eric does not have a pair, only with some backdoor outs. It's going to be tough for him to call in this spot. Of course, we can see that they're both holding the same cards. More than likely a chop if we get to showdown, especially with that rainbow flop. Eric with a big decision, 375,000 chips to make the call. He's only got 665 left, so this is about more than half, or right around half of his stack. And he started this hand right near the chip lead. So if he gives up right now, he's going to be fairly short stacked on the next hand. So he does make the call. That side pot has balloon. Now we've got 2.7 thereabouts in the middle. A 3 on the turn, 3 of clubs, fairly blank. Does bring in a potential flush draw. Du holding the queen of clubs.
Thank you.
Eric thinking about it. Looking up, trying to find some help maybe on the ceiling. No answers up there. Tough decision. And that is the difference between these final table tournaments and our cash games here. And Du will scoop the side pot with his aggression.
Got it.
The players will turn over their hands. Johnny shows off the queens. Du reveals the ace queen. Eric shaking his head, realizing he would have chopped. Now he's short stacked. There's a jack on the river. No help. Johnny will take down the main pot. 1.64 in the main pot. Johnny going from very short stack to pretty healthy now. Du will get a rebate, courtesy of Eric. Eric not looking very happy about that. He's going to have to shake it off. Have to regroup. Going to have to play some solid, tight ABC poker in order to get back into the lead. And we'll be moving on to hand number 11. Here's a look at the stacks right here. Frank Espino saying, we do need some player mics, for real, for real. Yeah, I agree. It would be interesting to get that table chatter going on here in our stream. We've got a couple of things coming, though. I don't want to speak too soon, but we got a couple of things coming. Paul, all the way up at the top, 2.1 million. Du at 1.7. We've got Johnny now in third place after dragging that massive pot thanks to a pair of ladies, queens in his hand. Daryl folding an early position due with the suited ace in the hijack, looking down at diamonds. Does decide, it looks like, to make a raise. Johnny going to get out of the way, folding 2 of deuce outs. Due trying to make that nut flush. Johnny holding the queen and the deuce of diamonds. Basil folding, Basil calling with the diamond in the big blind. Flop comes queen high. Johnny would have made a pair. Not much help for Basil or Dew. Basil does have some backdoor straight possibilities. That jack does eliminate them. And now Dew picks up a cut shot. There's the 10. Dew makes the straight. Basil checks. And Dew says, I can't get any more out of you. Basil certainly going to fold to any sort of aggression. Dew cracking up. Maybe he missed a bet. It's possible. I really don't think Basil would have called with 5 high for the remaining chips in the stack. Basil now at the bottom of the leaderboard, currently 155,000 in this chip stack. Big blinds are at 60K, so he only has about 3 big blinds, actually a little bit less than 3 big blinds. So he's going to have to make a move pretty soon if he wants to stay in this tournament. And I believe Basil in the small blind here, so already committing some of his chips into the pot. Taco looks down at queen 8, gets out of the way. Daryl, not exactly a playable hand there, the Doyle Brunson. Eric with the king 4 suited says, now is my time to shine. He shoves the rest of his chips, 290,000 of them, in the middle. Some of these players thinking about maybe knocking a player out. Potentially. Paul looks down at pocket jacks. Here's his time, potentially, to knock out a player. Eric does have 1 overcard and the diamond draw. Paul holding one of the diamonds, making it just ever so slightly less likely that Eric will hit a flush. 615,000 in the middle. Eric pumping it up, getting ready. He's willing the king on the flop. Paul just needs to hold. He's got 1.8 million behind, so even if he loses this, of course he doesn't want to chip up an opponent, but even if he loses this, he will still have a pretty healthy stack. You can see Eric pulling out a cigarette already, ready to go. 2 diamonds on the flop, though. There's a 9, a red 9, but it is of hearts. Needs a king or a diamond, and there's the ace of hearts on the river, sealing it up for Paul. Paul holds, and we have our second casualty of the final table. Eric getting out of there. And Eric is going to take down $680. Here's a look at our payouts. $6,000 up top. That's what these players are going to be playing for. Second place at $4,000. Third at 32. You can see Eric taking down 680. Next place will take down $880 before we bump up into 4 digits. 4-figure payout for 7th place and above. Here's a look at the stack sizes. Got Josh in the box, shuffling up right now, pitching out those cards. One of my favorite dealers.
Okay, go ahead.
Paul still in the lead now, 2.4 million chips, due in second place at 1.8. Johnny at 1.6 and Big Taco at 1.4. Basil now in last place, 120,000 chips. Not a whole lot of fold equity with a small stack like that, but he will be able to, if he is able to double up, I should say, he'll be a little bit healthier. He needs to double up 1 or 2 more times.
Thank you.
Roy looks down at the suited 10 with 1 million chips. He does decide to get out of the way. Paul with the queen 9 and the small blind. Looks like he's going to complete. Certainly a good enough hand there. Blinds are now up 35K, 70K. And Big Taco going to raise it up to 300,000. Good bluffing spot right there. 2 limpers in his pot. A lot of dead money out there, and he is going to pick it up. Paul and Johnny both fold. Stack up his mountain of chips. We do have a couple of different chips in play right now. Those plaques are worth 100,000 chips. You can see Johnny, not too much in terms of circular chips there, but he does have a mountain of those plaques, each worth 100,000 chips. And we are moving on to hand number 15. Dude looking down at pocket 3s. He's going to put in a call right there. Johnny with the 10-4 getting out of there. Early position. Not a great spot to play a hand like that. Roy certainly folding that as well. Chris moving on to the next one. And Paul looks down at the pocket aces. The first time the aces have made an appearance at our final table. Dude's pocket 3s unfortunately completely crushed here. Can he sniff it out? Paul raising up. Fairly large, up to 300,000. Dude going to be out of position for the rest of his hand. Were he to make a call, absolutely a consideration he's going to be making. Already 475,000 in the pot. If Dude calls, it'd be up to 7,000 thereabouts. 700,000. And he does let his cards go. Pocket 3 is not extremely strong under the gun. Of course, pocket aces on the dealer button. What more could you ask for there? Now, moving on to hand number 16. Hands are flying by right now. We got a couple more fans in the chat. Edwin cheering for Johnny. Teresa cheering for Basil. Same flex emoji and green heart. Basil not out of the running just yet, though he is our short stack right now. He's going to have to make a move, but if I've learned anything about Basil, I've learned that he's patient. He's going to wait for his spot. He's going to choose it carefully. He's going to have a good chance to double up when he does decide to take his stand. Now, we're not playing any antes right now, just the big blind and the small blind. So that means Basil is safe from losing any of his chips involuntarily until the big blind moves back to his position. Chris with the king-queen. Looks like he's going to raise it up to 25,000. Basil folding a mystery hand. Big Taco looks down at pocket 6s. Looks like he's going to get out of there. And Dude going to fold his queen 9. Chris picks up another pot. Over 1.2 million still. And Brown's Barbecue in the chat. Hopefully they've eaten. Looks like it's going to be a long one. Yes, sir. It will be a long one. Hey, saw you out here yesterday. Heard some good things about that delicious barbecue, and I smelled some good things while I was dealing as well. That food is fantastic. Now we're moving on to hand number 16 here. Roy getting out of there. Chris looks like he's going to make the fold, as does Basil. Paul out of there too. Big Taco. A couple of cards not quite good enough to play in his position. Darrow putting together some chips, throws them in the middle. Frankie tapping the table. Sign of good luck. A lot of camaraderie here between these players. Even though they are battling it out for $6,000 up top, you're still going to see a lot of sportsmanship, a lot of table taps, a lot of smiles, a lot of jokes, and of course a lot of aggression. It looks like Darryl throws out one of the placards and gets raised by Johnny. The graphics are catching up here. Darryl does elect to let it go after raising up to 150,000. It looks like Johnny threw all in, and Darryl says, I can't keep up with that. Now Daryl fairly short stacked at only 465,000 chips. He's going to have to make a move. He's in shove or fold mode. Johnny shoves with the Jack 10. A lot of heart right there. And a good time to do so. It looks like that paid off. And Johnny stacking even more chips, more plaques. And here we go. Chris down with the ace 4. Basil, queen 6. Let's see if it's good enough. That is not his time. He's going to wait for a better hand, wait for a better spot. Paul at the KoJack, the old King Jack, does elect to just call 70,000. Looks like Johnny's going to be putting in the call in the small blind, getting a discount with his 8-4 suited. And that will entice the big blind to just check. No squeeze here. Roy in the big blind. Flop is 7-6-3. Roy hits a pair of threes. Johnny with a gutter ball. Paul gets out of the way. That flop is too low for his exact holding. And now we have blind on blind action. The 10 of hearts comes off on the river, rather the turn, potentially completing a flush. Of course, none of these players holding hearts. Looks like Johnny's going to bet it. Roy's going to fold. Not looking to chase his gutter ball. If he were to hit his gutter ball, he would tie with Johnny's hand. Now we're moving on to hand number 18. We've got a wide variety of stacks here. Wide variety. Pretty big range. Basil's still at the bottom, about 120,000, and he's going to have to make a move. That blind is creeping closer. He will be in the big blind next hand. Daryl at 465,000 also has to make a move, as does Roy, just below 1 million chips. Paul sitting comfortably right near 2.5 million. And Basil under the gun. He's going to shove all in with his ace jack. Paul getting away from it with his offsuit king. Taco getting out of there. Daryl moving on. And Roy with the king 10 is, looks like the only contender that we've seen so far. Not a whole lot more to call, only 85,000 more. He does decide to let it go. And Chris with the 7-5 is going to gamble. Got 1.2 million in his stack. 50,000 represents a small percentage of that. Basil with the ace jack. Chris with the 7-5. And there's a jack on the flop, pairing Basil, up to 63% equity. There's an ace, giving Basil the check mark. He does get more than a double up. 275,000 chips headed his way. Basil will have to commit some of those newly found chips right back into the pot, as he is the big blind on this next hand. Just in time. Great time to chip up right before the big blind hits. Vanessa showing off a little bit of saying tip your dealer. Don't forget to tip your dealer. I always like to make a joke when I'm dealing tournaments. Of course, the tournament chips have no cash value, so it's always fun to make a little witty remark here and there about those tournament chips. Of course, yeah, don't forget, do tip your dealers. Big Taco with the king 7 of hearts gets out of there. Daryl with the suited ace elects not to shove all in, and for good reason. Roy looks down at the ace king. Johnny with the ace jack. Johnny raises it up to 200,000. Roy sitting somewhat short stacked, below 1 million chips. This could be his opportunity. Does he want to call or does he want to raise? And it looks like he does shove all in. Chris with the immediate fold right after that. Basil laying it down. Now it's between Roy and Johnny. Johnny eyeing up the stack, making a decision here. He's already put 200,000 in the middle. He will be right around 1 million if he were to call and lose. Johnny, our last remaining player from Celebrity Card Club, well, CCC in Odessa, a good showing for this tournament, actually, out of CCC. And it looks like Johnny is going to make the fold. Roy chipping up now above 1 million chips. That should give him some much needed strength. Here, a little more wiggle room to play post flop. Not going to have to shove or fold anymore. At least a little bit of wiggle room. These blinds are still up to 35K and 70K. Big Taco under the gun, Jack 5 offsuit. Not likely going to be strong enough there. Darryl looking down at the dirty diaper, the old 3-2 offsuit. Johnny's going to let it go. Roy going to let it go. No, he does actually raise with the 7-3 offsuit in the cutoff. He's got those new chips and he's putting them to use. I like to see that bluff raise pre-flop. Chip it up a little more, adding to his stack. And here's a look at the current stack sizes while we switch dealers. We got Josh, one of my favorite dealers, leaving the box, letting Tech come in. Also one of my favorite dealers. Paul still at the top of the leaderboard, 2.4 million. Johnny at 1.8, Do at 1.6, and Big Taco at 1.5. Still at the bottom, Basil at 170,000 chips. He is going to have to make a move here pretty soon, though. He is on the button, so he gets a full orbit before he has to commit more chips into the pot involuntarily through the blinds. Darryl also needing to make a move, 465,000 chips in his stack. He's about shove or fold mode as well. And the blinds are still at 35K, 70K. And speaking of making a move, here comes Darryl, ace-8 suited. Under the gun, a strong position to make an all-in raise. We're getting a count here. Dude doesn't have much to think about, though he is waiting for the dealer to count out the chips. Jack deuce offsuit, not likely to call, even though Do does have Darryl covered. Almost 4-1. Getting out of there. Johnny with the 7-5 offsuit, not likely to play either. Roy with the suited ace, this time of the diamond variety, ace-5. He elects to fold as well. Chris, though, looking down at pocket queens, a perfect calling hand, or does he shove over the top to isolate Darryl, not allow the button or the blinds to get in the middle of the mix? Looks like he's going to push all in as well. And the blinds do get out of there. Players turn their cards up when there is no action left in a tournament, as is standard procedure. So we've got Chris's queens versus Darryl's suited ace. Darryl looking for an ace or some clubs here on the flop. He does see one club and an 8, making a pair. Chris's queen's still best. Darryl looking for an ace or running clubs. There's a 6 of clubs, improving Darryl's equity up to 32%, but he's still a 2-to-1 dog. And there's a 6 on the river, sealing it up for Chris. Our third elimination of this final table. Darryl going to be walking away with $880 out of this tournament. And you can see we're laddering up $1,140 for 7th place. We have now moved into 4-figure territory. We'll see that ladder jump increase as we dwindle down on this final table. Up top, $6,180. Second place, $4,140. Third place, $3,200. So a lot of money in this prize pool here. Fantastic turnout for this tournament. Of course, we added $10,000 on top of that prize pool, up to $6,100 for the top spot. Edwin Tillinger in the chat shouting out CCC. Hey, yes, definitely. Celebrity Card Club in Odessa. Some great action, some great games, some great free rolls as well. Definitely check them out. If you're not on Poker Atlas just yet, make sure to sign up and get real-time notifications. As well, you can register for wait lists and see what kind of tournaments we got going on. Not only here at KoJack's, but also at CCC. Got Brown's Barbecue asking, do Basil have any magic left? I guess we're about to find out. He is short stacked, but will make a move. He chooses his spots very carefully and has already doubled up one time. Looks like he's going to need a double up here very shortly, though, to keep that magic going. Do with the 6-3 in the big blind. Just checking it back. Johnny's limp from under the gun with his king-queen suited, offsuit rather. Flop comes low. Do makes a pair, pulling ahead for now. He's going to check it. Johnny going to bet. Do should make this call here. Under the gun, not a whole lot of low cards represented. Johnny could be betting a flush draw in this position. Not likely to be holding eights, although I guess that is a possibility. That would be the bottom end of the under the gun range. Do thinking about it. It's hard to make a pair. Any pocket pair that Johnny could be holding would be better than Do's threes, almost undoubtedly. Do not with a whole lot of backdoor possibilities. Could make a backdoor straight. Of course, you can't count on running cards, really, when you're planning out whether to call or fold. Small bet by Johnny, only 100,000. About half pot. Do does decide to let it go. Johnny will scoop that small pot, 275,000 chips headed his way. Of that, 105,000 is profit for him. Frankie chipping up, also icing up, throwing some ice in that cup over there. Love to see it. These players do have a good time while they're playing. Hey, can you blame them? We got Tech shuffling up here. Big Taco, aka Frankie, on the button. So Do is in the small blind. Now Johnny, with his newfound chips, in the big blind. Moving on, hand number 24, Roy with the 4 deuce suited. Not a great hand under the gun. Paul looks down at the suited ace and the cutoff. It looks like he is going to throw together a couple of raisin chips there. Raising, not raising. Big Taco with the queen 8 on the button, gets away immediately. 150,000 is the raise that Do will have to call with his king 7 if he wants to continue. He does let it go. Johnny looks down at the ace queen. Absolutely crushing Paul's aces, of course, unless spades come. And Johnny does make the call out of position. Heads up to the flop. 335,000 in the middle. Flop comes Jack 7 6, 2 diamonds. Johnny holding the ace of diamonds. Paul goes ahead and bets it, continuing the aggression. Johnny with a snap call, a 6 of spades on the turn. Doesn't change much. And an 8 of clubs on the river will give Johnny the check mark. Both players with ace high, but Johnny's ace queen high will take down this pot. Paul giving up after the flop. Standard C-bet procedure right there. Now do on the button. That means the big blind is getting ever closer to Basil's short stack. Basil still at only 170,000 chips.
We were telling somebody
And
how
the
much
fidgets.
the bet is. Don't announce it as how much extra the raise is. Just announce it as the total.
And it looks like top dog still Johnny.
Sorry,
2.2 million. Actually, he pulls ahead of Paul only barely after dragging that pot. Chris at 1.7 million. Do at 1.5. Basil, the only player not in the 7-figure territory, sitting at 170,000 chips. Blinds still at 35 and 70,000. Basil just over 2 big blinds. Again, not a whole lot of fold equity with that chip stack. We have some blind on blind action here. Johnny with the very playable King 10 of hearts and Roy with the exceptionally playable Ace Queen of hearts in the big blind. With a decision to make, Johnny just calls. Roy figuring out how much can I extract. Looks like he does put in a raise. $200,000 is the raise. Johnny all in. 2.2 million. Roy is going to have to be all in if he wants to make the call. A couple of players chuckling over there. A good bet by Johnny, perhaps at the wrong time though. Roy, with a strong holding, though he is dominated by aces, by kings, by ace king. Johnny thinking, or rather Roy thinking, what would Johnny be doing this with? And he does lay down the ace queen, a very tight fold, but a lot of respect from Roy to Johnny. Not going to be happy when he sees that one. But a well-timed pseudo bluff right there, blind on blind from Johnny. Again, representing Celebrity Card Club. And we've got Flatland Infusions cheering Murray on. Good looking hat, sir. Love that. Hey, shoot us a like. Hey, thank you for watching. We've got a good number of people watching our live streams. Make sure to chat it up in the comment section. Leave us a like. Subscribe to us if you haven't already. We really appreciate your viewership. Thank you for coming out today and watching our final table, this $10,000 added tournament. Brown's Barbecue getting in on that gutsy fold. I agree. A lot of respect paid to Johnny there in the small blind for that last hand. Paul looks down at the Jack 9 suited. Does come along from the +1 spot. Do entice to come along too. 4-3 suited. And now Roy's turn to look down at the King 10, this time offsuit in the small blind. With a small decision to make, a little bit of dead money out there in the middle. 2 limpers ahead of him. 1 player left to act in the big blind. Looks like he's going to raise it up. No, he just makes the call, 35,000. And Chris just checks. We are 4 ways to the flop. It's been a while since we've seen more than heads up to the flop. And this one brings ace queen 7 to the table. 2 hearts. No diamonds for Paul. Pair of 7s for Chris. 56% equity there. He technically has the best hand right now, but that could change. And it certainly does on the turn with that jack. Roy makes a straight. Turning Broadway is going to lead out 200,000. Do with the spade draw. Not exactly getting the right odds to draw, but could make a pretty good implied odds if he were to hit his flush. The aggression that Roy is showing here and the position that Do has, certainly factors that he's thinking about. And he does let it go. Roy chipping up now at 1.2 million. After taking down that pot, almost 500,000 chips in the middle of the table there. And we've got Rob Leva cheering on Superman. Let's go, Basil. Some magic left. Basil is in the big blind now, so he's going to have to make a move either now or on the next hand. Sister Taco watching from Sealy, Texas. Thanks for watching, Debbie. And we've got Rob cheering on Basil. Once again. 2 cheers, 2 minutes from Rob. Love to see the fan clubs out here. Let's get some hype in the chat. Show some emojis. On to hand number 27. Paul with the 9-7 under the gun. Yeah, he lets it go. Big Taco with the King 8. Nah, not going to play that either. 6-4 for Dew, out of there. Johnny with the Ace 7 of hearts. Looks like he's going to raise it up. Roy with the Ace 3 suited, this time of the clubs variety. And lets it go. And Basil with the 10-9. Now Basil's hand, his favorite hand, is the Jack 10. Maybe that's why he lets the 10-9 go. Now down to 100,000 chips and has to put 35,000 of them right in the middle right now as the small blind. Playing the patient game. Hoping maybe some of these other players will knock each other out and he'll be able to ladder up. $1,140 going to the next knockout. After that, we'll prize up to $1,480. And here we go. And number 28. Taco looking down at the King Jack, the KoJack under the gun. Johnny with the pocket 8s. Seems to get some pretty good hands and some pretty good spots. And this being one of them. Roy with the Ace 8-3 rather, getting out of the way. So does Chris. Basil not using this opportunity to try and chip up the 7-6 offsuit. That's what he folded. And here we go. We're going heads up to the flop. Johnny, the chip leader against Big Taco, 1.2 million in Big Taco's stack. 10-5 Jack. Superman would have hit a gutter ball. The bottom end of a straight draw. Johnny holding 2 8s right now. Bested by Big Taco's pair of jacks. Taco does bet 300,000. Johnny makes the call. The turn is a 7 of hearts. And Taco going all in with his top pair. A good time to strike. Can Johnny find the fold? Or is he a non-believer? Rob saying the snowmans. That is absolutely true. Yeah, Johnny holding on to those snowmans actually for now. Thinking about making the call. 935,000 is what he'll have to commit. Almost half of his stack. Of course, we know that he is drawing very thin. Just looking for one of 3 remaining 9s, or the only remaining 8. Not many outs there. Johnny doing a quick count of his plaques. Again, each worth 100,000. And the count of his own chip stack. Figure out how much would it cost him to make this call. Setting it aside right there. Not much left if he were to make the call. He's thinking about it. See him kind of sizing up everything, weighing the options, replaying how the hand has gone in his head. Pre-flop, Big Taco did make the raise to 200,000 on the flop. Taco does not let up, betting 300,000, and on the turn goes all in for the rest of his stack. Johnny says that's too much aggression. My pocket eights, not likely to be good here. And he does make the fold. Taco chipping up. Now at 2 million chips. Rob saying the snowman's hit. They would have melted.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah, you are right.
Hold on. Pause.
They would have melted. They
So
sure
Basil
did.
just eliminated. Paul should have been the big blind by
Brown's
himself.
asking,
With no
would
small
Basil
blind.
had hit his straight?
Was
I don't believe
was,
so. He had 7-8.
No, I would say
Offsuit.
call the floor because you've already got action.
And you can see the chip stacks. Big Taco now in the lead, 2 million chips right there. Johnny just behind him, also 2 million. And Paul right below 2 million chips. Basil down to 65,000. He's got a little magic left in him. Let's see if he can turn this around, this short stack. All you need is one chip, one chair, 2 cards. And we've seen some comeback stories. Let's see if Basil wants to write a comeback story of his own for today. Do under the gun with the 4-3 suited. Looks like he's putting together some chips. And he does make the call. A very loose call from that position. We are down to 7 players. As the field of players dips down, the relative strength of your hand goes up. Dude certainly seizing on that. Big Taco in the big blind makes the check. Queen high. Flop comes 7-8-9.
It's all good, Lauren. I got your
No
back.
help to either player. Big Taco's queen high still best. He's going to bet it out. Not a whole lot of those cards in a limping range from the under the gun position. Taco with a range bet here. Does let it go. And Big Taco chips up once again. I believe that puts him on top of the leaderboard now. Very tight grouping of stacks here. All these players fairly evenly distributed. 2 million up top for first and second. 1.9 for Paul, not too far behind. What about 1.5 for Chris and Dew and 1.2 for Roy? Basil needs to make a move here. 65,000. He is one off of the button currently. So he's got a little bit of time. Can be somewhat selective with his hands. But again, not a whole lot of fold equity here. 65,000 is less than one big blind. So if he doesn't find a spot soon, that blind is going to come for him and force him to put the rest of his chips in his stack, whether he wants to or not. Queen 9, not going to be good enough for Basil. Paul bets his ace 10 on the button. Raising it up, 175 is the bet. Dew with the 7-5. 1.3 million chips in his stack. Getting a discount. Looks like he's making the call. Huh, there he goes. Paul looking for an ace. Dew looking for a 7 or a 5. No, I don't want to. Thank you. Okay.
You're good, son. I
Maybe
can
I'll
say
get
more.
to it later. Probably not. If you get hungry, you change your mind.
Okay.
Flop is ace high. Paul with his pair of aces bets out 200,000. Dew with a gut shot, looking for an 8. All 4 8s are live. None of them have been folded. Still only gives Dew 23% equity here in this hand, though. He's thinking about it. Paul on the button did raise pre-flop to 175. Dew thinking it could be a standard C-bet. It could be because Paul made a pair. Any pair beats Dew's hand right now. And with the two hearts, he might even be up against a flush draw. And Dew does the let it go. Paul chipping up once again, 2.15 million chips in Paul's stack. And he gets the button. No, psych. That one goes to Frankie for this hand. As the blinds creep ever closer to Basil, you can really feel the tension here. Browns encouraging Basil, saying push, push, push. A couple of Basil fans in the chat, love to hear it. A couple of Taco fans in the chat, a couple of Paul fans in the chat as well. Plenty of love for the other players, just not represented in our chat so far. Hey, if you're cheering for Roy, you're cheering for Johnny, if you're cheering for Dew, come on. Type it in the chat there. Rob cheering for a double up for Superman. Roy with the KoJack, this time of the clubs variety.
Sorry, is it?
Is going to raise it up to 140 under the gun.
Other than the people at the table.
Dew with the Queen 10. Lets it go. Johnny with the 6-3 does fold out of the big blind. That means Roy is going to be taking down another pot. Chipping up. And Basil with literally a chip in a chair. He's down to less than one big blind. And he is 2 spots away from that big blind. So he's only got 3 hands really, technically, to choose from at this point before he's going to have to commit his chips into the pot. Hoping for a ladder up here. On to hand number 32. We've been going strong for about an hour here. KoJack's live, coming to you. Thank you for watching. We really appreciate it. This is a big tournament here. And Basil with the Jack 9. He says that's good enough. Close enough to Jack 10. No, he doesn't. He folds it. My mistake. Big Taco with the queens.
Nope. 80 to 200 is 120, so it's got to be 320.
And Dew with the suited ace on the button. Looks like he's going to make a call.
How much is it?
Johnny with the 10 deuce in the small blind, the old Doyle Brunson. He does fold that. Roy with the Queen 9 in the big blind. Oh, my mistake again. Johnny actually does make the call. And Roy checks. We're going 3 ways to the flop. Dew's suited ace versus Johnny's suited 10 versus Roy's offsuit queen. Flop comes 7-6-3. Dew does make a pair. No hearts on board. Turn is a deuce of spades. Johnny makes a pair. He's going to bet out. 80,000. Right around the minimum. Dew with a better pair. Getting raising chips here. He is going to raise it up. Looks like 160, 180. It says, I'll see your bet, Johnny, and I'll put one of these plaques on top. It looks like Johnny makes the call. Going off to the river, which is a 3. Dew improves 2 trips. Johnny could be in trouble here. Looks like Dew is going to bet out. Johnny going to fold. Dew chipping up once again, right near 1.5 million chips now after that 500,000 chip pot. And Brown's Barbecue, once again, root for Basil here. Saying a chip in a chair, he looks doomed. He hasn't given up just yet. That is the old adage. A chip in a chair is all you need to win. Let's see if Basil can prove that right. He will be in the big blind next hand, and he will be under the gun this hand. Unfortunately, not a whole lot of information to go on when determining whether he makes the call or not. And I say call because he's down to less than one big blind, so he's not going to be able to raise it up on this hand.
Okay.
Big Taco, 10-7.
I like you on 92.
Dew with the Jack 5. Roy with the Jack 3. Johnny with the 9-8. Could we see the first walk of the final table? Roy with the Jack 3 does give it to Chris. And Chris shows the walk. Everybody at the table says, ah, man, that was better than that. And now Basil, committing his chips to the pot. He is in the big blind, slightly short from one big blind by about 5,000 chips. And he will be last to act pre-flop. So we'll have to wait until all the other players make their decision to see what Basil is holding and what he is not folding. It's like Paul gets out of the way there. The 5 deuce. Basil with the 9 deuce. Let's get the 9 working for him. Big Taco dominate Basil's hand with the Jack 9. Dew with the 6 deuce. Taco contemplating a call here. And the blinds have gone up, by the way. 40,000 in the small, 80,000 in the big. Either way, good enough to push Basil all in. Chris looks down at the AK in the small blind. Looks like he's going to raise it up. Johnny made the call with Queen 10 offsuit. Certainly playing live against a random hand. And Chris just calls. A smooth call here. Doesn't want to spell bad news for Basil quite yet. Here we go. Small side pot. Flop is 5, 3, 4. Actually some help to Basil. He does have an up and down straight draw. Any ace or 6 will give Basil the straight. And there's a 4 pairing the board. No help to Johnny or Chris. An 8 on the river will give the check mark to Chris with his ace king high. And eliminate Basil in 7th place. And just like that, Basil scoops $1,140.
Pretty sure that one flashed.
Next up, $1,480 for 6th place. 5th place, $1,900. 4th, $2,460. 3rd place, $3,200. $4,140 for 2nd, and up top we have $6,180 for the victor. And here's a look at the stat count as well. Swapping dealers out, we got Lauren coming in, one of my favorite dealers. Stacks are now very tightly grouped. 1.2 million at the bottom for Roy and 2.15 at the top for Paul. Not a huge range of stacks there. Roy is technically the short stack with 80,000 big blinds. Got about 15 left. 15 big blinds. Up top, Paul, a little less than 30 big blinds. So again, tight grouping of players here for this $10,000 added tournament that we've got. Huge prize pool. 6,100 up top. Browns cheering on Basil, saying 1,140 good payday. Hey, you ain't lying. We've got a good payday for all the players left. At least $1,000 going to each of them. And now we are on to the first hand Lauren is dealing. 34 is the hand number that we've got. 6 players is the number of players that we have remaining. 1,480 is the number of dollars going into the next player eliminated's pocket. All winners here at this table. The question now is not whether they will win. The question is, how much will they win? It looks like we may be waiting on a ruling here. Something happened. Not exactly sure what it is. There's Kelly coming in again. Your tournament running extraordinaire. Making a ruling. And we do have some big things coming for KoJack's and CCC for the rest of this month. Got a whole new list of events going on. We're still doing Monday free rolls. I'll be here for that tomorrow. You want to come out and say hi? Or come out and play some free poker? Certainly a free roll is a great way to do that. I think we're still doing our bomb pot tournaments on Wednesday as well. And we're going to be running qualifiers for our next large tournament every Sunday of August. Similar to what we did last month, though we're not doing stamps. We're doing cards. You will get a business card if you make, believe, quads or better. I think it's just quads or better. Yeah, you'll get a business card for that to allow for some extra chips to take with you to the qualifier that we're going to be running on Sundays of this month. And just like last month, those qualifiers will get you into a large tournament. Details TBD. But I promise it is going to be a tournament to take part in. Very similar to this one that we're running right now. The final table of our $10,000 added tournament is going on right now. We're down to the final 6.
We'll be able to tell in about 15 minutes.
And Roy looks down at the 7-4 in the cutoff. Do in the +1 with the King-Queen offsuit. Looks like he raises it up. Nope, just calls. Just calls 80,000. Chris getting away. Paul with the 7-3 suited in the big blind. He checks. Will the flop be high or low? Kind of in the middle. Jack 8-5. 2 diamonds on board. Do holding the king of diamonds. And Paul checks it over. Not making a pair. Do's king high still best. Does he keep up the aggression or does he check it back? All in the big blind, holding literally any 2 cards because of Do's limp pre-flop. Paul just checks. He could be holding anything. He could be holding Jack 5, Jack 8, 8-5. Do thinking about it. He checks. Turn is a 5. The river is a 9. No help to either Paul or Do.
Normally it's really high.
And it looks like he goes check, check. Paul saying, I don't have anything. Do saying, hey, at least I got king high. And that's going to be good enough to take down this pot. Paul still at 2 million chips. Do at 1.5 million. Looks like Paul is our chip leader. Right at about 2 million chips. Oh, Taco, just barely notching him out. 2.1 million there. Chris at 1.7, Johnny at 1.6, Do at 1.5, and Roy at 1.2. Healthy stacks. Good enough for at least a little bit of post-flop play. We don't have to see any all-in or fold action just quite yet. At least not until the blinds go up again. 120,000 chips in the middle of the pot. Even before any action, though. Fairly sizable sized pots. And Chris raising it up with the ace-9 offsuit. It's going to be good enough to get the blinds out of the way. And he will take those blinds down. Looks like a fresh delivery of Chinese food. Got my tummy a-grumbling. That looks pretty tasty. That fried rice, I'm telling you. Some beef and broccoli. Looks like Paul is mixing it up over there. And Johnny, under the gun, looks down at 8 deuce. Roy in the hijack with the pocket jacks. He says, hold up, let me chew my food. I got a good hand, don't you worry about it. He's going to throw in some raising chips right there. It's like 180, 185, 210. Yeah, Paul too busy chowing down to make the call. Same story for Frankie. Dew looks down at the 8-3. He doesn't have food, but those cards are not good enough to keep him occupied. He's going to move on to the next hand. Hey, and we appreciate everybody in the chat, everybody watching right now. We've got a pretty good, healthy amount of viewers. Thanks for watching. Go ahead and leave us a like, leave us a comment. Let us know who you're rooting for out of these 6 fine players we've got left. Roy, Chris, Paul, Big Taco, Dew, Johnny, all in contention for that $6,100 top prize. Roy looks down at the ace-5 offsuit under the gun. He's got food, so he gets rid of the cards. Big Taco with the suited king on the button. And he's going to raise it up. 200,000 is the bet. Dew with the suited jack. Needs to commit another 160,000 chips to make the call. Looks like he's going for a couple of plaques. This could be a raise. Dew now plaqueless here in his chip stack. Each one of those plaques, 100,000. Looks like the dealer's ruling a call. Oh no, he does 3-bet, 340,000. That'll force Johnny out of the pot with his 10-7, putting Big Taco to the test. And he throws in a plaque as a call. We're going heads up to the flop. 620,000 chips in the middle. 760. Now that both of the stacks have been added. And the flop comes 10-10-7. Dew making a pair of 7s. Only one spade on the flop. Dew shoves all in out of the small blind. And that forces Big Taco to fold. King high no good here. Dew scoops a big pot. Now up to 1.9 million chips. Still slightly behind Paul's lead at 2 million chips. Yeah, Big Taco not too concerned with losing that one. Had some of that delicious looking fried rice, I think. Ball up to 2 million, Dew at 1.9, and Chris right below that 1.9 million chip mark. Big Taco at 1.6, Johnny at 1.5, and Roy at 1.3. Again, a really even spread here of chips. Not a huge range. Paul, not quite double Roy's chips, but even still, healthy chip stacks all around. 80,000 is the big blind. Roy, the short stack, sitting just below 20 big blinds. Chris under the gun looks like a suited king. Paul now with the ace queen looking to intensify his lead over the rest of these other players. 80,000 to call. Looks like he puts out a raise. 175,000 is that bet. Johnny getting out of there. Roy with the 6-4. Even with the discount, not likely to be played. Now, wait a second. I spoke too soon. He does make the call. A loose call, but call nonetheless. Flop comes queen high. Paul hitting top pair, top kicker. Not much there for Roy. That 3 gives him a couple of backdoor possibilities, but Paul leads out into him. And Roy going to make the fold. Paul chipping up. Now at 2.2 million. We've got Renee digging Frankie's shirt. Hey, it's good to know I'm not the only fan of that shirt. That is excellent. Love the poker themed Hawaiian shirt he's got going on. Cards, chips, palm trees. What more could you want? Yeah, we're moving on here down to hand number 40.
Thank you.
Paul with the 7-6 under the gun, not quite good enough, even though it's suited. Big Taco, the 5 deuce, getting out of the way. Due with the king 7 suited. Looks like he's putting together some chips. There he goes, throwing a couple of them in the middle, calling 80,000. Johnny with the 10-9 suited on the button, facing a limp. He does make the call. That'll likely entice Roy to come along, complete the small blind with his 7-8 suited. And Chris with the 5-3, the old Charlie. Let's see if Charlie's favorite hand can pull ahead on this flop. Jack 9-6. Not much help to Chris. Johnny makes top pair. Roy up and down. 2 diamonds on board though. No player holding diamonds.
Gotcha. You're all good.
400,000 in the pot. Johnny bets 80,000 with his pair of 9s. Roy up and down. Looks like he's coming along. Chris getting out of the way, folding Charlie's favorite hand. And Dew needs to call 1 big blind to continue to the turn. Not a whole lot there for him, but a couple of backdoor possibilities. And he does decide to get out of the way. We are heads up to the turn, which is a 3 of diamonds. No help to either player. Does potentially complete a diamond flush draw. Of course, we know neither player is holding diamonds. Johnny going to bluff at it. And Roy gets out of the way. That 3 was not what he wanted to see. And he short moves on to the next hand. And Johnny stacking up even more chips. Roy below 1 million chips. Still the short stack, getting a little shorter after that exchange. Paul at 2.2 million, Dew at 1.8 million, Chris at 1.8, and Johnny exactly tied with Chris. Big Taco now down to 1.6 million, and Roy below 1 million, though only just at 995,000. Still over 10 big blinds for Roy. Gives him a little bit of fold equity, a little bit of wiggle room to play post-flop. Not exactly in shover fold territory, but getting very close. Paul, the chip leader, just below 30 big blinds. A comfortable stack, but not too comfortable. Here we go back to the action. Big Taco looking down at Jack 5. He's out of the way. Do with the King Jack, the old KoJack. King of Hearts, Jack of Spades is the official KoJack hand. Well, hey, it might as well be the King of Clubs and the Jack of Hearts. Johnny looking down at the pocket tens. Great time to see that hand. Do limps in from the hijack. Roy with ace-5 offsuit gets out of the way. Chris folding and Paul as well, leaving the 9-5 behind. Johnny raises up to 280,000. Does do make the call? That is the question. It looks like he's putting together some chips. $280, you say? Okay, sure, I'll make the call. And he commits a call to the pot. Johnny slightly ahead, classic coin flip, 2 overcards versus a pocket pair. Flop comes with a 10. Right on board. That ace, though, could save Deuce some money. He sighs and checks. Johnny bets. $385,000 is the bet. Do with a Broadway draw. The 2 hearts could discourage that. 1 queen already folded. Doing the hijack. If he does call, we'll have to play the rest of this hand out of position, as he did on the flop. Johnny in position with a set. 83% equity right there. And you can see the pre-flop action. Do limps for 80,000. Johnny raises it up to 280,000. So Johnny, as the aggressor, likely to have a whole lot of aces.
No, the button should be in sequence.
Kings, queens. And of course the tens that we see here, certainly well represented in his range. Do analyzing the history. A little sigh of frustration there. It's been a while since Dew has hit the board well, and this is no exception. He does have gutter ball to Broadway. If a queen hits, he makes a straight. Of course, he doesn't want the queen of hearts, which, as we know, has already been folded. So that reduces one of his outs. Johnny with 1.1 million behind. If Dew makes the call, he will be about that, limiting the amount of chips that he could win. Dew thinking about it. If he does call here, he'll likely be pot committed on the turn in the river. Let's see, shuffling that card protector right there. The source of his intellectual power. Weighing the options here. Call and be pot committed, or shove here and not have to worry about the other
Okay, hold on.
opportunities. Just let the cards fall as they might. But it looks like he's not going to call this hand. He's not going to shove here. A little pre-fold. Usually when players pick up their cards like that, it means they're not re-raising.
Okay, you're good.
Very careful not to reveal the cards he's holding. King Jack. Pretty good draw. He does have the Jack of Hearts. He is blocking hands like Ace King, Ace 10, Ace Jack. Now he does decide to make the correct fold and gets away from it. Johnny shows a 10. Maybe a little bit of a needle right there, saying that you had a pair of aces And you were good there. And just like that, we are chipping up for Johnny. Now the chip leader, 2.2 million chips in Johnny's stack. Paul in second place at 2.1 million chips. And Roy still just barely below the 1 million chip mark. Dew under the gun now with the King 5 offsuit. Lets it go. Roy with the 9-3 offsuit. Likely to get out of there. Johnny, the Jack Deuce suited in the hijack. Probably not going to be playing that one. And he does make the fold. Chris betting 225,000. Looks like, 240,000. And he shows, it looks like an ace. We got the Paul feasting cam going on here. Is that beef and broccoli? Woo, can you tell I'm hungry? Now we've got Frankie in the small blind, Dew in the big blind. Johnny first to act up
Are the
the gun.
blinds 50 and 100,000?
We are still six-handed. Sixth place, up to $1,480. It's $10,000 added tournament. We are on day 2, the final table, the final 6. Wow, look at this. Johnny under the gun with the King Queen suited. Roy with the Queen Queen. Looks like Johnny's putting together some raising chips here. And he does bet. Just making the call for 80,000. Roy with the decision to make. How much does he raise it up? It looks like he may go all. Nope, he just makes the call too. Oh, he raises it up to 200,000. Paul with the 7-3, getting out of there. Taco with the King Deuce, no good. Dew in the big blind, looking down at a suited Jack. Not exactly bookend. The Jack 8 of diamonds. If he calls here, Johnny still has the opportunity to potentially raise. 200,000 is the number of chips that he has to put in to make the call.
It's weird.
And it looks like he does. Getting a discount in the big blind, 120,000 is the added chips that he had to put on top. Johnny looks like he makes the call as well. We are off to the flop 3 ways, 640,000 chips in the middle. Ace, 9, 6. That ace certainly a scare card for Roy, who still has the best hand with his pocket pair of queens. 1 diamond on the board for Dew, 1 heart on the board for Johnny. 1 ace on the board to scare Roy potentially, but it looks like he's going to bet out. Looks like another 200,000. Dew with a decision to make. Not a great flop for him. A couple of backdoor possibilities in terms of straights and flushes.
Wait, 16 chipped and you win all that?
Dew shoves all in over the top of Roy. This is an excellent time for taking a line like this. Roy's got to wonder, what was he calling with before the flop? What is he check raising me with on the flop? Are my queens good enough? Roy says, no, they're probably not. And he does get away from it, folding the best hand. Dew taking down a large pot with the Jack 8 suited, a total bluff. Excellent move there. And Brown saying, doing the do. You are not wrong right there, sir. Do now the chip leader, 2.1 million chips. Paul at 2.1 as well. Johnny at 2 even. And Roy now down at the bottom. Once again, just below 600,000 in his chip stack. Blinds are at 80K, so he's below 10 big blinds. Gonna have to find a spot, seize the spot, try to double up. Jack 8 off suit. Not gonna cut it here. Chris with the 4 deuce getting out of the way. Paul 8-5 in the muck. Taco folding as well. Do in the small blind, ace 6. Can he make it 2 pots in a row? Looks like he's throwing together some call-in chips. Throws out another 40,000 in the middle. And Johnny, our one-time chip leader, now up against our current chip leader. Blind on blind action here. 160,000 in the pot. Flop is ace king 6. Do flops top 2 pair, top and bottom pair. He's going to lead out. Johnny's going to get out of the way. Not much there for the 10-5 of hearts. And Do shows the ace 6. Look what I can do. That is a pretty good trick. Anytime you can flop 2 pair, you're doing all right. Browns. Yep, you're right. Do with the textbook example of a bluff. He sensed a little weakness. He struck. And he dragged the pot. Hand number 45. Hard to believe we've been going almost for 2 hours here. And Frankie up from his chair, maybe getting a refuel. Another plate perhaps. Roy with the queen 6 in the big blind. Johnny with the J6 in the small blind. Looks like Johnny completes. Roy's going to raise it up, all in. How much do you like those cards, Johnny? That's what Roy is saying. Johnny's saying, not too much, not too much. You can have this one. And Roy chipping up when he needs it most. He will be in the small blind for this hand. Love these food puns here from Brown's Barbecue. Keep it coming, man. Do catching fire like a barbecue pit. Absolutely. Yeah, Do on top. Now with the big stack currently. 2.26 million in front of Do. Paul in second place, 2.12 million. And Johnny right at 2 million chips. As is Chris, just below that mark, right at 1.895. Johnny at 1.855, I believe. Do with the King Jack. Johnny looking down at the aces. Do with the KoJack. Every time I see a King Jack, I have to check our logo to see what suits the official one is. I will get it down sooner or later. The King of Clubs and the Jack of Hearts is what Do has right now. Johnny with the American Airlines. Do limps in once again for 80K. Johnny about to size up. Let's see how large of a bet he makes it. $230,000. That's going to get the blinds to fold. Is it small enough for Do to come along? Oh, Do shoves all in at the worst time. He does cover Johnny, but only barely. He'll be left with a couple 100,000 chips behind. Do with a couple of bouts, but only a couple at 13%. Johnny, 87% favorite to win this hand. Do playing aggressively. Just happened to step in it on this hand. And Brown's, action about to happen. You are right. It looks like we're going to have, well, we're certainly going to have a huge pot. 4.19 in the middle. A queen high flop, queen 4-5. A 4 on the turn will give Johnny the check mark. An inconsequential ace on the river. Johnny hits a set. Do left with just 230,000 chips. Johnny, now the far and away chip leader, almost 4.2 million chips. And we are close to another elimination, now that Do is short stacked. Do counting out the chips. And here's a look at those stacks. Johnny at 4.19 million chips. Paul in second place, 2.1 million. Chris at 1.8. Taco, 1.5. Roy and Do both below the 1 million chip threshold. Do 230,000 chips left over after losing that pot. Still about 3 big blinds. A little bit of time to be choosy, but not a whole lot of fold equity with that short of a stack. Roy at 635,000 chips. Slightly more fold equity, a little more time to be choosy, but still under 10 big blinds. Renee and Brown's both saying, wow, yeah, you're right, that got crazy. Fire didn't last too long. That barbecue pit running a little hotter than it should have, maybe. A fresh Dr. Pepper for the chip leader there, Johnny. Taking a sip of a cold drink. And speaking of which, Taco back at the table. Now we're moving on to hand number 47, blind still at 40K, 80K. Big Taco with the King 6 suited under the gun does decide to fold. Do with the King Queen offsuit. This could be his shove spot for the rest of his chips. 80,000 to call, 560,000 behind. And it looks like he just makes the call. A coy call. Roy with the pocket 4s lets him go. Oh, sorry. Johnny with the suited connectors lets it go. Roy with the pocket 4s. And Chris will complete out of the small blind with his offsuit connectors. Paul looking down at ace queen raises it up to 300,000. Absolutely crushing Do's king queen. Looks like Do says this is the time for me. He does shove. Cannot call in that spot. He shoves for the remainder of his 485,000 chips. And he's going to be looking for a king on the flop. It looks like Chris gets out of the way. Paul calls. Do does turn over his hand. Looking a little frustrated, looking a little disappointed, understandably so. Tried to bluff at the wrong time. Did not quite work out. And now his king queen is up against Paul's ace queen. A lot of chips in that pot. And here we go, off to the flop. 945,000 chips in the middle, right near a million. 9989 and a 7 of hearts on the river does give Paul the check mark. As ace queen high beats deuce king queen high. And a good game for Dew. He'll be taking home $1,480. Not too bad of a payday right there. Not too bad at all. Next ladder, $1,900 for 5th place. 4th place at $2,460. 3rd place, $3,200. 2nd place at $4,140. 4140. 1st place, $6,180. A large prize pool that we've got here, $6,100 on top, almost 62. And just like that, we are down to 5 players. Fairly tight chip stacks. Roy still below 1 million chips. He's now at 600,000, looking down at pocket fives. And he is all in. Those fives might be good enough to take down the blinds. Chris, with his dirty diaper there, the 3 deuce, gets out of the way. And it looks like Paul folds his jack 9. Taco getting out of the way with his queen 7. And Roy takes down the blinds, adding 120,000 chips to his stack. And just in time, too. He will be under the gun on this hand, meaning he's going to be in the big blind next hand. Brown's barbecue. That's poker indeed, saying he went from hot to frigid cold. Absolutely right. You know, choose your spots, and sometimes those spots just don't work out. Sometimes the deck has other plans for you. Paul making the call. Blinds are up 50K, 100K. Paul limping the button with his snowmans. Speaking of frigid cold, the snowmen are out. Big Taco with the 6-4 raises it up to 300,000. Paul coming along for the ride. He will have position after the flop. Flop comes ace high, ace 5-3. Big Taco up and down. That bluff pre-flop actually paying off pretty well. He's going to lead out into Paul, and Paul is going to fold. And Taco turns over his cards. Paul looks a little surprised. Paul looks a little surprised. Hey, I guess that's what you're playing with, huh, Frankie? Frankie says, yep, and it was good enough to take down that pot. Frankie chipping up. Johnny still in the chip lead with 4 million chips, now in the small blind. And the blinds are so large, 100,000 big blind is plaque. Chris under the gun. Let's go a mystery hand. Paul looks down at ace-king suited.
Jingle.
Pocket 8s to ace-king. Not a bad run out of cards right there. Big Taco with a 9-6. Not getting frisky with this one this time. Johnny with the ace-jack in the small blind. Let's see if he wants to squeeze with his large chip stack. Counting out a couple of chips. Looks like he puts in a call. Roy with the 7-4 offsuit. Not likely to play that one. He does fold that. And we are going heads up to the flop. Both players holding an ace. The flop comes king high with 2 clubs. Paul flops the world. Top pair, top kicker, and a flush draw to go along with it. Johnny first to act. With 1% equity, bets 100,000. Paul immediately shoves all in over the top. And he is going to take that pot down. Johnny snap folding. Up to hand number 50 now. We've been going for about 2 hours. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your viewership, your comments. Leave us a like, give us a sub if you're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, what have you. We love doing these streams. We have a great time doing them, but we do them for you. We do them for the viewers. So thank you for watching. Thanks for leaving comments. We appreciate it. And we love hearing what you have to say. We love seeing you cheering on these players, and we love hearing where you're posting from as well. Roy in the small blind looks down at the ace-7 offsuit. Going to be good enough for a shove here in this spot. And that's going to get the rest of the players out. Roy going to take down the blinds. And it looks like Johnny actually still with a decision to make. No, he lets it go. His offsuit ace not going to be good enough to hold up to Roy's all-in. And Roy chips up 820,000 in his stack now. Getting close to that 1 million chip mark. And Roy gets the button in addition to that last pot. We'll have a full orbit before he has to make a... While he has a full orbit to make a decision, I should say. He's got a couple of hands to choose from. 100,000 is the big blind.
You're all good to go.
So Roy only has about 8 big blinds left, 8.5. He looks down at the ace-10 suited. Let's see if he goes for 2 in a row. Certainly a playable hand there. And it looks like he's all in once again. Chris's queen-7 not good enough. Paul's king-7 not good enough. And Roy, just like that, 2 in a row. 2 pots in a row. I think he's right at 1 million chips. Still only 10 big blinds. Johnny about 40 big blinds. Paul about 27. Chris about 15. Big Taco about 17. Blinds are creeping up. Really taking a chunk out of the stacks each time that button moves around the table. Of course, that means the pot starts out at 150,000 chips. Paul's call bumps that pot up to 200,000 chips. And Taco raising right back up to 300,000. Paul making the call. Both players with queens. Taco's queen jack is best. He's a 3-1 favorite here. Ooh, until that flop comes 9 high, pairing Paul's 9. Paul leads out even before he can finish putting in his bet. Taco is coming along, making the call. We're off to the turn here. Blind versus blind. Pot is brewing. 1.2 million in the middle. Look at this. A jack on the turn pairs Taco's hand. Paul now with a diamond draw. Paul checks. Taco bets 500K. Not much behind there. Only 750,000 behind from Taco. Paul does call. A little less than a quarter of his stack going into the middle to make that call. He is behind right now. A diamond will fix that. Unfortunately, a queen will not. And the river is a king, giving Taco the check mark. Paul first to act. He checks. Taco looks like he shoves all in. And Paul will make the fold. Taco will make the pot. 1.1 million chips added to his stack. Go to 11 big blinds headed his way. Couple of plaques as well. Each of those plaques now worth only 1 big blind. 100,000 chips. Roy with the king-10 offsuit under the gun. Is this good enough to shove? And looks like he put some chips in the middle. Just a raise. 275 is what it looks like. 250. Big Taco with the ace-9 suited in the small blind. He's going to call the 200,000. Johnny with the KoJack. The King Jack offsuit. Notch in Roy's hand. And he does make the call. 150,000 more going in the middle. 750K is what's in the middle right now. 3 players to the flop. It comes king high, king 9-8, 2 spades, 1 club for Taco. And of course a king for Roy and Johnny. Johnny betting 400,000, Roy making the call. Taco is making the fold. And we will be 2 players to the turn. Roy is all in here with his king up against Johnny's king, and a jack on the turn all but seals it up for Roy. Still looking for a straight, and he hits 2 pair anyway. Not going to be good enough. Johnny's 2 pair king jack will beat Roy's 2 pair king 10. And just like that, we have another elimination. We are down to 4 players. Roy going to be taking down 5th prize. $1,900 going into his pocket. Next up, 4th place, $2,460. A significant ladder, about $500 difference between 4th and 5th place. After that, 3rd place, right near $1,000. 3rd to 2nd, about the same, and then a $2,000 ladder jump from 2nd to 1st. $6,180 on top for our 10K added tournament. If you missed out on this tournament, that's all right. It looks like we got another one coming around. We're going to be running qualifiers every Sunday, just like we did in last month. We'll be doing that this month. Every Sunday, we'll be running qualifiers for our next large tournament. That'll be happening right at the beginning of September. So make sure to come out and play on Sundays. Good ways to add chips to your stack for the qualifiers, and any chips that you bag, I believe you'll be able to take with you. Details TBD for our next tournament, again at the beginning of September. Flop comes 7, 6, 5. Johnny with a gut shot for his pair of 9s. Paul's ace 10 in trouble. Chris up and down with his jack 8 does decide to fold. Paul coming along for the ride, calling Johnny's bet. 225,000 is the size of that bet. 1 million chips in the middle. The river is an 8. Johnny with the straight, and the top end of that straight, no less. Paul did turn a gutter to a higher straight, but not going to chase it this time. He's going to give up. Johnny's going to scoop even more chips. Johnny, the last holdout from Celebrity Card Club. Not exactly a rivalry here between the 2 card clubs. We did collaborate for this tournament. We're going to be collaborating for our next tournament in early September. Johnny, the chip leader, representing CCC very well. The last remaining player from CCC. The other 3 players are regulars here at KoJack's. Big Taco, as well as Chris and Paul. Excellent players, all 4 of them. Johnny's still top of the leaderboard, almost 5.5 million chips. I believe we have about 10 million chips in play, so Johnny's got about half of them right now. Chris looks down at the king-queen offsuit. Fairly short stacked, only about 13 big blinds. Looks like he does make the call against Taco's raise. Taco raising it up with the ace-9 offsuit to 300K. And Chris making the call, 700,000 in the middle. Taco hits his ace on the flop there, ace 10-6. Chris drawing to Broadway, 22% equity. Looks like he does make the call there. Turn card is an 8 of diamonds. Chris now with the flush draw. 12 outs for Chris, 27% equity. Still a 3-1 dog. Taco bets out 200K into a pot of 900,000. Chris comes along looking for a flush, looking for a jack, and it is the jack. Not only that, the jack of diamonds. Chris makes his flush, and it looks like he shoves all in. And Taco forced to fold. A pair of aces, rather. No good here. Snap fold. Taco. Chris chipping up now at 2 million chips. Right about 20 big blinds. Fairly comfortable stack, all things considered. At least until those blinds creep up again. Paul now the short stack at 1.2 million chips. About 12 big blinds. Now it's Chris who looks down at the KoJack. The King Jack offsuit. Johnny under the gun with the King 9 suited. The K9. Now it looks like Johnny throwing in some calling chips. Chris with the King Jack has him crushed, but still lets it go. Paul with the 6-4 getting out of the way. Big Taco just checks his option. The 8-6 suited. Suited one gapper hand. The flop comes ace 10-8 pair for Taco. Taco bets 100. Johnny snap calls 100. A 4 on the turn. Taco with the min bet once again. Johnny folds. Taco dragging chips. Johnny holding on to his chip lead. Hand number 58. Things are moving along fairly quickly. I've got some interesting stats to share with you as well. I'll go ahead and do that at the conclusion of this hand. Johnny's VPIP at 43%, and he is the chip leader. After that, Paul at 29%, who looks down at the ace-jack suited on the button. 1.1 million in his chip stack. Looks like he throws 100K in the middle. Big Taco with the Queen 7 getting a discount, throws in the additional 50K required to complete. And Johnny with the suited ace, great spot to squeeze. Does he elect to? Or is he just going to check his option and see a free flop? Well, looks like he's putting together some raising chips. And he raises it up to 500,000. A good squeeze. Paul taking advantage of the opportunity. He shoves the rest of his 1.1 million in the middle. And Johnny saying, I got you covered by a pretty good bit. Looks like he's going to make the call. And he turns over his ace-4 suited. Paul looking to hold. He is ahead right now. 2-1 favorite. Until that flop comes King 4. Johnny making a pair of 4s. A lot of chopportunities still present here. The 7 on the turn changes nothing. The 6 of hearts on the river locks it up for Johnny. Paul is now eliminated in 4th place, taking down $2,460. And just like that, we are down to 3 on this final table. $3,200 for 3rd place. $4,100 for 2nd place, and $6,180 for the top slot in 1st place. Now, a lot of times these tournaments we'll see players making a deal, chopping the prize pool when we get down to 4, 3, sometimes 2 players. I got a feeling these players are going to play it out and see who lands at the top. Not only for that $6,100 prize, but also for bragging rights. Let's see what happens now. Let's see if these players do decide to chop or if they're going to play it out for a victor. We are down to three-handed. Blinds are still 50K, 100K. Healthy stack for Big Taco, about 22 big blinds, 6-5 suited. He looks down at on the button. Now that we're three-handed, the button is first to act pre-flop, last to act post-flop. Taco raising it up, 300,000. Johnny in the small blind does fold. Chris with ace-deuce offsuit in the big blind makes the call for 200,000 more. 650K in the middle. King, Jack, 7. A 7 of clubs, no less. Taco with the backdoor straight flush draw. Eliminated by that 9 of hearts on the turn. Chris now with the flush draw. And ace high, the best hand currently. And the ace on the river, that'll give Chris the check mark. He bets before the chips even hit the middle. Taco folds. And Chris chipping up right here. Brown's Barbecue, yeah, wow, stand up 4. You are right. Excellent players remaining. Good representation from CCC. Right there on the bottom right. That is Johnny in the blue shirt. That is Big Taco, a.k.a. Frankie, in the poker-themed Hawaiian shirt. And Chris Murray, his hand is in the frame. Right there on the left. I believe he's wearing a white shirt. Just for completeness sake. Now we've got Josh in the box, dealing to these final 3 players, one of my favorite dealers, making a return. Johnny looking at the King 9 offsuit on the dealer button. Chip leader adding some of his chips to the pot does make the call. Chris completes as well with the Queen 9 offsuit. And Big Taco with the Ace 8. I'm going to raise it up. And that's going to cause the other players to fold and the pot to go in Taco's direction. Let's see this D over there. Changing out some chips. Adding some plaques, it looks like, to Johnny's stack. Those plaques are each worth 100,000. Black chips are worth 25,000. Pink chips are worth 5,000. And those orange chips are worth somewhere in the middle. Chris Murray, first to act, wearing a gray shirt. My mistake, I thought it was white. It's gray. And we may be negotiating a chop here. Chris yet to look at his cards. Scanning them. Putting them back on the scanner. Putting chips in his hand. And then putting those chips in the middle. Raising it up, 400,000. 7-6 suited is his holding. Big Taco getting out of the way. Johnny looking like he's folding just as quickly as those cards came to him. Chris takes down the blinds. 150,000 chips going his way. Hand number 62. We got Renee in the chat cheering on Murray. Say, let's go, Team Murray. And he has made it to the final 3. A good showing for Mr. Murray. A good showing also for Mr. Taco as well as Mr. Johnny. All 3 excellent players. Made it through 2 days of this tournament. $6,100 at the top. Chris looks down at Pocket Kings. A couple of cowboys. Johnny makes the call out of the small blind. Chris rips it in for 2.485 million chips and will take down Johnny's blind and the complete that he put in. Getting down to the wire here. A lot of aggressive play. Ken Frazier in the chat. Good job, Johnny. Glad to see Miss D working. That's right, Johnny, our one remaining player from CCC, doing very well for himself. Made it up to third place at minimum. Actually, the chip leader. Minimum payout these players can receive $3,200. Not too bad for a two-day tournament. Second place, $4,140. First place, $6,180. That is, unless they agree on a chop, which may be what's going on right now. I see Kelly out there. I see some handshakes. It looks like that's what we've got here. 3 players remain. Chris, Taco, and Johnny as the chip leader. Unbelievable. A very good showing. We got Kelly in the studio here, waving me away. And it looks like we do have a chop going on here for these players.
How do you get in there?
You gotta come on this side. There's Kelly right there.
You gotta come way over there, Kelly.
So, Kelly, how much was the chop that they agreed on?
Johnny, who was the chip leader, took $4,900.
$4,900.
And what was left was, I believe, $4,310 apiece for Murray and Big Taco.
Perfect. Well, an excellent showing from these 3 players. We had one player, Johnny from CCC, taking the top spot. Chris and Big Taco, of course, regulars here at KoJack's. A fine field, a fine showing, and a great tournament as well.
Yeah, it was. It was a pretty good turnout, and I think everybody had a lot of fun, and we enjoyed putting it on. We can't wait for the next one.
That's right. We got another one coming up at the beginning of September. We're going to be holding qualifiers every Sunday here in August, so make sure to come out and see us. And for the rest of the night, we got some cash games going on.
Oh yeah, we got 3 tables out there running. We got 5 on the buttons, 2 of them, and we got a 1-2 table. So come on out and play.
That's right. Lots of poker here at KoJack's. And thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you again real soon. Looks like our next live stream is going to be on Thursday, I believe.
Yes.
So we'll see you then. And again, thanks for watching, everybody. We had a great time. We'll see you next.